Good morning, ladies and gentlemen. It is an honor for me to present my research here in Ahwaz. Unfortunately, I can't talk here personally, so thanks to modern technology, I hope you can enjoy some points on yaghnobi language policy. Next slide, please. The yaghnobi language, or yaghnobi zvok, is one of the Eastern Iranian languages originally located in the Yaghnob River Valley in northwestern Tajikistan in a present province of Surd. And the dialect or the language later spread to some other areas of Tajikistan, especially the areas of the Varzob district, like Zide and Tagop regions or areas, and then some other parts of Tajikistan, like vicinity of the Tajik capital Dushanbe, or part like Zafarobod and Ghanchi. The language has been labeled like Neo-Sogdian, as it was supposed that yaghnobi is a modern descendant of the Sogdian language, the lingua franca in Central Asia on a Silk Road. But some features like absence of rhythmic law in yaghnobi or preservation of unstressed vowels a, e, and u, or preservation of augment in yaghnobi shows that the language relationship between yaghnobi and Sogdian is not so easily defined. So the claim that yaghnobi is a Neo-Sogdian dialect is rather problematic. Yaghnobi itself has three dialects: Western, Eastern, and transitionally, and the Western dialect is the most spoken in Tajikistan. The yaghnobi is known to the European scholars since 1877, and some 2 decades later, the first Sogdian documents were found in Tunhuang in Chinese Turkestan. So yaghnobi as a modern language is known to European scholars a little bit earlier than its most related language of Sogdian. The yaghnobi population is estimated to some 13,500 individuals, but this number shows all the people who consider themselves being yaghnobis or having yaghnobi nationality. As the number of speakers of the language, we have no more than 8,000 yaghnobi speakers. And the number is really low if we count just the people who use yaghnobi language daily. There are approximately some 1,000 people who use yaghnobi language on daily basis. All yaghnobis are bilingual with Tajik. In the Zafarobod area, many people know Uzbek, and majority of male population can speak also Russian. Next slide, please. Here on the scheme, you can see the main areas populated by the yaghnobi people. Some of the parts, like the Romit area, were inhabited by yaghnobis historically. Now there are no people that have connection with the yaghnobis. The main core is in the Yaghnob Valley, and then in the areas of Upper Varzob, so Zide and Tagop areas, and nowadays also in Zafarobod there are many yaghnobi people because of quite recent history of the nation. Next slides, please. The yaghnobi language, together with the Pami languages, is legally recognized by the Constitution of Tajikistan and also the law on languages. The language has legal or should have some legal support from the Tajik government, but actually no much official status or official recognition to the language is implemented by the Tajik government. So there, for example, there are no schools teaching the yaghnobi language. There are no printed media in yaghnobi, no TV or radio broadcasting in the yaghnobi language. So the language is just spoken vernacular, and there are few media that work with the language. We have only some books printed mainly as scientific results of scientific research, and there are no other books for concerning the yaghnobi language in Tajikistan at present. Next slide, please. I spoke about the yaghnobis in Tajikistan. I will talk a little bit more about it. So the original homeland of the yaghnobis is the Yaghnob Valley, or to be concrete, the upper reaches of the river Yaghnob, which is the most important tributary to the river of Zarafshon, which goes through Panjakent to Samarkand, the former capital of Sogdiana. But the Yaghnobis resettled some other areas in Tajikistan. In some 16th, 17th centuries, the Yaghnobis settled areas of Upper Varzop, areas of Zide and Tagob. Approximately in the same time, they settled also the region of Ronchi and the region of Upper Romit Valley. Still villages like Lufirar, Pichev and Ruskev carry names that can be explained like Eastern Iranian origin, not Tajik origin. Then on the start of the 19th century, some of the Yaghnobis settled in lower Varzop area, so it's the area northwards from the Tajik capital of Dushanbe, and also some villages in the valley of Kofarnihon River. In 1950s, some Yaghnobis settled also in area of Hisor and Dushanbe. And the last resettlement took place in the years 1970 and 1971, when all the inhabitants of the Yaghnob Valley were forced to leave their original homeland and to settle the Zafarobo district in northwestern Tajikistan in so-called Mirzochul, or the Hungry Steppe. And this is the most striking point in the history of the Yaghnobis, because thanks to this event became some self-awareness of the Yaghnobis. So this tragedy on one side is a potential for development of the Yaghnobi nation. Unfortunately, after the first resettlement, some 2/3 of the Yaghnobis died in some 5 years from the resettlement, but now in Zafarobod there lives the most populous Yaghnobi minority in Tajikistan. Next slide, please. The Yaghnobi language in Tajikistan, I mentioned also some points earlier, so let's have a look more precisely on this focus. In media, or in TV and radio media, there is no broadcasting in the Tajik state or non-state owned TVs or radios. There are no newspapers that print some articles in Yaghnobi. According to the information I have, there was just one CD recorded in Yaghnobi with some Yaghnobi and Tajik songs. And nowadays also some Yaghnobi songs are available on social media like YouTube. So yeah, the Yaghnobi music is the only medial part that is available for the people, not just for the Yaghnobis, but for all people in the world. Internet is another issue. I will speak about it a little bit later, but there are yaghnobi related chats on social networks. There is a beta version of yaghnobi Wikipedia, but on the other hand, most of the yaghnobis don't use internet, so this is just marginal issue. There are some books concerning yaghnobi and the Yaghnobie Valley and the culture. Many of the books were printed in Tajik or in Russian. Some of studies were printed in some other languages like German or English. Mainly in Tajikistan, there are printed books dealing with Yaghnobi history, folklore, and ethnography, and then not just Tajik language-based works on the Yaghnobi language. The first studies of the Yaghnobi language appeared in Russian, and nowadays there are many in Tajik and some other languages. So we have Tajik books also with examples of Yaghnobi texts, like stories, fairy tales, and even some texts translated from Sogdian into Yaghnobi. These texts can illustrate how the languages really differ, and no Yaghnobi can understand Sogdian text written in, say, in Yaghnobi spelling, because the pronunciation and the grammar is really different. Concerning education of the Yaghnobi language, there are no schools, not even in the Yaghnobie Valley, but some schools teach, voluntarily teach Yaghnobi lessons due to the wish of the Yaghnobi-speaking parents, but there are just very few schools that offer this possibility. And according to my information, since 2007, there was an attempt to build a school in the village of Gharmen in the middle of the Yaghnobie Valley. In the year 2009, when I visited the valley for the last time, the school was still in a status nascendi, so it was still being built. Nowadays, I don't have information whether the school works or not, but the other problem is, if the school will be ready, who will be the teacher, because there is no infrastructure in the valley, there are no doctors, so it will be quite hard then to get some teachers out of the community, or to get some teacher into the Yaghnobie Valley itself. On the other hand, there is a Tajik school in the village of Ghshartop in the westernmost part of the Yaghnobie Valley. But this school is only visited by few pupils from the Yaghnobi Valley itself. The last point is that there is a department of Yaghnobi studies, Guruhi Yaghnobshinosi, on the Rudakis Institute of Language and Literature of the Tajik Academy of Sciences, and there Mr. Saifuddin Mirzozoda takes care about his mother tongue and prints many materials on the Yaghnobi language. Next slide, please. Now, this slide illustrates some book production from the Yaghnobis in Tajikistan. So some books on history, and especially we have school books for third and fourth grade. There is a alphabet book and some dictionaries and grammar books in Yaghnobi, and some illustrations of the school textbooks in the Yaghnobi language. All of the books are Yaghnobi and Tajik based. Next slide, please. So I spoke about the books, and now how is it with the written form of Yaghnobi? The Yaghnobis, when they write something, they usually use Tajik variety of the Cyrillic alphabet, and they usually write in Tajik. When they do write in Yaghnobi, they just use the same spelling like we know in Tajik. But there are some difficulties. The Tajik alphabet, as you may see on the slide, doesn't have the same phonemes like Yaghnobi. The specialty is the phoneme w, which is virtually unknown in Tajik, but in Yaghnobi you have a difference between v and w. So this is rarely marked by the Latin W letter in Yaghnobi. Another thing is correct spelling of historical long and short vowels in Yaghnobi, or marking of stress, which is not on the last syllable like in Tajik, but it can appear on any syllable of a word. But on the other hand, the Cyrillic variety is the main possibility, because the Yaghnobi people will learn the same script they use for Tajik. There is another possibility to use the Roman letters, which is usually done in scientific works, but it is then the Roman letters or Latin alphabet is unknown to many of the Yaghnobi people. Another possibility is the Perso-Arabic script, which is not so good opportunity because of that the script is imperfect even for Arabic or Persian, and it's quite hard to write Yaghnobi in the letters. Another possibility is to adopt one of the three old Sogdian alphabets, but these are even worse possibility as Arabic, because there are no Unicode fonts, and so it will be problems with encoding and also with imperfectionality of the language or of the script. Another slide, please. As I mentioned, all the Yaghnobis are bilingual. The bilingual status is also reflected in Yaghnobi vocabulary, which is some 34% taken from Tajik, and there are many Yaghnobi Tajik compounds or compound verbs. Some 25% of the lexicon is formed by Tajik elements, and only 27% of the Yaghnobi lexicon is the original lexicon of the language. Many of the Yaghnobis speak mixed with Tajik, or when they don't have some expressions in their language, so they often use Tajik sentences in Yaghnobi speech. And the Tajik language is a serious threat to the Yaghnobi because in Tajik some things in modern world are easily expressed than in Yaghnobi. Next slide, please. I mentioned online status. This is some problem because there are no Yaghnobi software, no applications for mobile phones. In IT, Russian is the dominant language, not even Tajik. But there is a beta version of Wikipedia, which was started by myself, but now I leave it just to the Yaghnobis to make new entries in the Wikipedia. There are some chats on social networks like Facebook, Vkontakte, or Odnoklassniki, but Tajik and Russian is the dominant language there, but Yaghnobi can be used there. The problem is that internet is available mainly to the younger generations of the Yaghnobis, and the core of the Yaghnobi speakers in the Yaghnovelian in Zide and Tagob have rare internet connections, so internet or an online world is a way how to preserve the language to the younger generation, but it's not the main part how to try to save the language or to go on with the language policy. Next slide, please. And what to do with the language then? The language is a definition of the national self-awareness of the Yaghnobis, also the Sogdian language, which is considered to be the predecessor of the Yaghnobi, and the Yaghnobis even use the label Sordi for their own language. The language is tied, closely tied with the natural environment of the mountainous district of the Yaghnov Valley. So the preservation of the language is connected with preservation of the traditional way of life of the Yaghnobis. So it's semi-nomadic or transhumance way of life. Another way how to help the language is to increase the prestige of the Yaghnobi language. Some materials, even written in Tajik concerning the Yaghnobi history and linguistics, is better than nothing, but Yaghnobi books and some other things would be much better to show the people, see, your language is not good for nothing, but it is worth to have some books printed in the yaghnobi language. The main feature is also support of the yaghnobi education at schools. So schools in the Yaghnob Valley itself, but some subjects even in the yaghnobi speaking areas in the yaghnobi language, and increase of education of women, because women are the medium of language transfer, support of yaghnobi students in secondary grade education, which is, there are almost no second grade yaghnobi students, and yaghnobi as a subject of study on universities in Tajikistan, even for non-yaghnobis. And then the previously mentioned IT support, which is not as important for the original preservation of the language, but may be helpful for the younger generations. So thank you for your attention. And now on the last slide, there is some point of literature printed in Tajikistan concerning the yaghnobi language, mainly things or books printed by yaghnobi scholars in the yaghnobi language or concerning the yaghnobi language. Thank you for your attention once more, and if there will be some questions, I hope that it will be possible to connect and I could answer your questions. Thank you very much.